Hello, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having an awesome Saturday. We're back with episode 12 of Calling All Bowlers, and tonight's guest is I call you Mike, the bowling guy from Iowa, Mr. Mike Roseman. Thanks for coming on to the show, Mike. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mike?
Man,
That's
I
how I
am
always use
fantastic.
myself. Hi, this is Mike, the bowling guy from Iowa.
Yeah, and like I said, it fits so well.
Yeah.
Uh, but we appreciate you coming on to the show. Um,
Great
tell us
having
a little bit about yourself, Mike.
Well,
What makes Mike the bowling guy?
well, I'm in business with my brothers and my family. I have a bowling center in Davenport, Iowa, 24 lane center. My parents have the pro shop there. They've had a pro shop or been in the pro shop business for about 46 years in Davenport, Iowa. I grew up in a bowling alley. My brothers grew up in a bowling. I got three brothers, one older, two younger. We're bowling alley rats. We grew up in a bowling alley. It's always been our dream as brothers and a family to own a bowling center. In 2013, it became reality in Davenport. And then 2 years later, we got lucky enough to buy another center about 25 minutes from us in Muscatine, Iowa. And that's a 48 lane center. So I work the bowling center every day. My family's there every day. Somebody in my family's there every day. It's a true small business. I got a passion for bowling. I collect vintage bowling stuff. I collect local Davenport bowling stuff. Big history in Davenport with the bowling. We're about 2.5 hours from Chicago in that area. So we're right on the border. We're in the Quad Cities, basically, right on the border of Iowa, Illinois, Rock Island, Moline, Davenport, Bettendorf. That's the Quad Cities. Just a bowling guy from Iowa.
Man, I tell you, when I first went on your TikTok and when you came on to a couple of my live streams,
Uh-huh.
I noticed the security camera footage, and I was like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
guy shows off the stuff from a comedic level." I mean, like,
Oh,
and that's what it's all about. It's been like I've been kind of mixing it up on mine, like showing pro shop stuff, but
sure,
like trying to be a little
sure,
entertaining. And
sure.
some of those security camera clips are absolutely hilarious.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, people would not realize what happens at a bowling alley. That's the video you saw was I was out there by myself about 4:30. Somebody strolls in the front of the bowling alley, and if you're a bowling alley guy or a bowling alley person, I mean, you know when somebody's in the bowling alley. I know every square inch of the place. And she just ruffled around a little bit and then ended up grabbing a liquor bottle and trying to jam it in her purse and run out the door. But she got caught. So that's where my TikTok started, really, is the bowling guy, because I was the parking lot police. I would run people out of the lot that stranded stuff there, or people doing dumb things in the bowling alley. So, if you want to kick a ball return and bring attention to yourself, I'm going to help you bring that attention.
Because if anything, it's like bad attention is not, that's not
Well,
the kind of attention
yeah.
you're wanting.
I mean, and then some people say, well, I can't believe you do that. Well, I couldn't believe you did that, whether it be slam your bowling ball down or, punch the locker, or, you've seen it, I'm sure, as long as you've been in the business. I mean, there's some people out there that just make asses of themselves. And I want to help people. I want to show them. So,
So Davenport, Iowa, and what was the other bowling center you said is
the
located
other
where?
bowling centers in Muscatine, Iowa. It's Leisure Lanes in Davenport, Iowa. And then it's Rose Bowl, a play on our last name, in Muscatine, Iowa.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about how, like you said, like the dream was accomplished. How take us through that process. Like what was the day like when y'all got the word that y'all were, hey, this is happening.
Well, it's weird because my brother and I'm 50 in September. My brother is 13 months older than I am. And we have talked, we have 3-ring binders. We have business plans. We have anything you can think of, because I've worked in a bowling alley really my whole life, so I kind of know the numbers. We're a league-based bowling alley, so it's hard to judge open bowling and birthday parties and laser tag and all of that stuff, because in the Davenport Bowling Center we don't have any of that. We have a crane game and we have a candy machine and a pop machine. You know what I mean? So it is not kid friendly in that per se, because there's not a lot for kids to do when their parents are bowling league. So now the other one in Muscatine is we have just as much league play there, but it's a bigger center, so we have so much more open bowling. The birthday parties and the glow and bowl on the weekends, and the parties really pays the bills. And that's the only bowling center in town in Muscatine. It's a smaller town. In Davenport, there's 3 other centers, but 2 of them are fun centers, and one of them's a traditional center. So really, that's all we can compete with is a traditional center, because people will pay $6 or $7 a game in open bowling to go to a fun center, with all the bells and the whistles and the laser tag, but they won't pay $3 to come to a traditional bowling center and bowl. Difference for me is bowling center, fun center is we owe the lanes every day, sometimes twice a day, every lane. Because we are a league-based bowling alley. Those guys, we have to take care of. That pays our bills is those leagues. So we cater to leagues. Where a fun center is, you may have a tournament going on, and it may run 15 or 20 minutes longer than expected. And guess what? There's a birthday party on both sides of you, because that's just what they do, because they need to make the money. So I see both ends of it. We're just more of a traditionalist of a bowling center versus a fun center.
So you're actually attacking it twofold. Like, you are one house, like you said, is very traditional leagues.
Yeah.
Taking care of that from that aspect, and then your other one is more like probably the entertainment side.
It's both. It's still a traditional bowling alley because there's a ton of leagues there, but it's big enough to separate the two. They have first 16 lanes, and then they got a wall that closes, so you can shut that party down for the rest of the house. So there's 2 different things there where we have more competition in my area. So our open play, say on Saturday nights, is really non-existent compared to the fun centers in town, because people would rather go there, because it's the fun center, So, and I get that. So we try to do both. We do a St. Patty's Day tournament every year. We do our Bowling for Boobies every year. It's a cancer tournament. Last year we raised $100,000 for that, in October. So we do New Year's Eve. We do Christmas Eve 9-pin. We get 120, 130 bowlers every Christmas Eve. So we are always having something going on in Davenport to offset the open bowling that we don't have.
No, man. The thing I find awesome about this is, again, y'all are sole proprietors, and to me, in the business today, you don't hear sole proprietor as often. Well, it's either been family entertainment centers, or it's like you said, there's other bowling centers that are just they're getting swallowed up, and they're being reopened under different banners and what have you.
Well, when you say sole proprietor, if you have a center that's 24 lanes or smaller, that's a small center, in my opinion. That's a small business. That's a family business. My dad's 75. My mom's 70. I got a 51-year-old brother. Myself, I'm 50, at a 40 and a 34-year-old brother. The 34-year-old brother is our main mechanic in Davenport, and the other 2 brothers have other jobs. So it's me, the brother, and the parents. If you're not running that as a family or as a whole, it's just not going to be successful. I mean, it's just not. I mean, if you're not there every day, you just can't do it. That's the difference. My wife and I drove from Iowa to South Carolina and stopped everywhere in between. Really, it was a 9-day trip. We visited 12 states. I'll look at bowling centers on the way, because I like to buy bowling centers or bowling replica or antiques, or I'm really into the vintage shirts right now, the 50s or 60s shirts that have the advertising on the back. And so when I'm Googling the name, if it says Family Fun Center or Entertainment Center, I generally don't even call them, because it's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the bowling alley that was in Kingpin, the old smoky 70s style bowling center. You know what I'm saying? I want to rummage through something like that. We have a couple in town here that in smaller towns, Durant and Tipton and DeWitt are all 8-lane centers. So, and the owner works there. They make hamburgers, they oil lanes, and they cut the grass. So, I mean, if you're not doing that in a small center, in my opinion, it's not going to last.
Right. No, I mean, like I said, I think it's absolutely wonderful what you guys got going on. And, another fun fact, y'all being in Iowa, one of my goals with Calling All Bowlers, I came up with this one probably about episode 6. I wanted to try to interview at least one bowler, proprietor, pro, whatever the case may be, one out of each state. So
Sure.
thank you for helping me accomplish getting Iowa
Yeah.
checked on my map.
Yeah. Glad I could help.
So so we're moving in here. So you go, like I said, you guys got your first the two bowling centers,
Mm-hmm.
obviously different. You got a
Mm-hmm.
good way of running things and making it happen.
Yeah.
And then let's say 2020 comes along and COVID shuts everybody down.
Yeah.
One of the big things about, I mean, it shut us down too. Obviously, it shut everybody down. But
Yeah.
me being in the pro shop business, we weren't able to work. We had to
Yeah.
file unemployment with Alabama and what have you. But as a
Yeah.
proprietor, tell us a little bit about the whole, like how it affected y'all and
Well,
what kind of contingency plans did y'all take to make
it
it
was,
through it?
it was scary because we were non-essential. We couldn't gather, is what they told us. Basically, we couldn't have organized bowling.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that happened at the end of one season, went through the summer, which were slower in the summer, so that was okay. But when it started up the next season, it was really rough because the small centers, I said earlier, those 8 or 10 lane centers or lower, they closed, because those guys are more bar restaurant than they are bowling alley. So they have to have the burgers, they have to have the ATMDs, they have to have, the beer and everything else. So, or they don't last. So, it was a struggle for us. We still did the pro shop stuff. And what torqued me off is movie theaters got money. In our area anyway, they got so much money per screen is what they got as a help. But they didn't do that for bowling centers until somebody raised a stink, and then finally they did something like that. So it was a scary time. We debated because we had bowlers that just wanted to gather unorganized, so but that puts us in a tough spot because there's liquor license, and at that time it was a scary time. Everybody was just didn't know what was going on, or threatened by this or that, or so even when they did open back up, it was tough because they still allowed you to drink, but you had to wear a mask. So it was weird because we couldn't satisfy everybody. Half the place was mad about the mask, half the place didn't want to be there. So, and we were kind of stuck in the middle, but people didn't understand we had to open, whatever the rules were, we had to follow whatever our beliefs are, but we had to open to get some money generating, because it's a bowling season for us is 33 weeks. That's 8 months. You miss Thanksgiving or you miss Christmas and New Year's, you're talking 33, 34 weeks. And if you're not pounding it for those 33 or 34 weeks, you're in trouble in the summertime. So at least around here you are, because the nicer it is here in the summer, the less business you have. Now, if it rains, then you're going to be busy. If it snows, you're going to be busy. But yeah, COVID was tough. But luckily it opened up faster than we thought. And then we got some help, just like the movie theater thing. We got a little bit of help. So it helped us. So, but a lot of places went under. A lot of those, like I say, a lot of those small centers went under. If you look at the number of actual centers that are out there, it's staggering. I mean, the difference it is now versus 40, 50 years ago.
So what kind of so you guys made it through, like what were y'all trying, because you were talking about like all the things that come with a bowling center being successful. What kind of stuff are you guys implementing to try to get people back in the door and making them feel like, hey, you're safe here, everything's
Yeah.
good, and you got to go to code and all this other good jazz? Because we had the same thing too. We actually
Right.
opened back up in June that year.
Yeah.
When did y'all open back up, and what did y'all do?
Well, they had rules. We had to have sanitizer stations every so often. Everybody had to wear a mask. It was kind of like, well, in Iowa, they put arrows in the grocery stores. So this aisle was only this way, and this
Uh-huh.
aisle was only that way. So it was some of it's comical, I think, but the mask thing, like I said, we were a no-win because we were getting yelled at by both sides of the people, but we just had to be open. But we didn't really have to do much because people were so happy to be back. They were people, bowlers, bowlers. I mean, they come together, whether it's for a fundraiser or, visitation. I mean, bowlers run in pretty thick packs, and at least in our area they do. So everybody was happy to be back. So we didn't raise any pricing. We didn't do anything dramatic. We were just happy to be open, and then everybody was happy to be back. And, that lasted, the restrictions kind of went off 6-8 months that season. Some people weren't even listening to the restrictions. There's, other businesses in town, not bowling centers, but weren't listening to restrictions. So like I said, everybody was just freaking out at that time. So you didn't know what to do, or you couldn't make anybody happy, at least from our end. So, but we got through it, and I'm glad we got through it. We still have 10 gallons of sanitizer.
It's funny you said that because my boss's daughter, she was CFO at the time, and she was getting it from the local brewery. She was actually having like
Yep.
actual custom
Yeah.
sanitizer being made.
Like tequila. We have one in our area too that was giving it away. And I mean, I'm telling you, that stuff smelled like liquor. It's I mean, your hands smelled like, ours smelled like tequila anyway.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. It was, like I said, it's almost a surreal time because you were just sitting there and you were thinking like, we've never and me personally, like I've never been through something like that before. And I was one of those people where I was like, and I remember when they said they was like the minimum 2-week deal, and then it got to a month. And I remember I was sitting at home with my mom. I said, if this goes on another month, there's going to be some people they're going to start getting restless.
Oh yeah.
And then things that happen, and then all of a sudden now it opened back up, and everybody, it's like you just said, everybody's just so grateful. And I think that's the thing about the bowling community, not only from like the local level, but everybody I've talked to on here, they talk about the community being close knit. And I think you just put the nail in the coffin that proves true anywhere when it comes to the bowling community. Would you not agree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the way it was. Because bowlers are also cliquey. You've seen it. I mean, you can sit up at the front counter of the desk. I worked the desk for a long time in a bowling alley, and you hear stuff, and you can see the cliquey here or the cliquey there. Those guys didn't care. Everybody kind of came together after that because, like I say, they were just happy to be bowling. Bowlers want to bowl. There's guys that bowl Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And they weren't doing that for that many months, and they were restless. They were ready to get back. I always joke and say, Storm and Roto still came out with 9 bowling balls during that.
Yeah.
Equipment, they come out with 9 or 10 bowling balls going into the summertime, and by the time Winter League rolls around, they're discontinuing the balls they came out with in the summertime, so I joke about that all the time is they still even came out with balls during the COVID.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, Mike. With y'all being, again, one of your centers is traditional, the other one is traditional, and you're trying to cater to open play, what have you. How are you keeping up with the current trends, being a proprietor, where you're at, and has there been any? I mean, tell us some of the positives and tell us any of the negatives too that have come with this, being able to have to put this game plan together.
Yeah, well, it's tough in the center in Davenport. We still have I don't know if you know Astro Line. That was a Brunswick furniture line. This bowling alley was built in 1977, opened in 78, and it's got the original furniture in there. The Astro Line ball returns, and they had the masking units, which had been replaced. But we've replaced everything in there. They're A2 machines. The trends are hard for us because we have a sports complex in our area that's $50-60 million. You know what I mean? They have 16 lanes up, 16 lanes down. I can't compete with that as far as bells and whistles. You see what I'm saying? So I can compete in that way where I have bowlers come in the door that want fresh lanes on a daily basis so they can actually practice instead of going out to somewhere like that and paying $6 or $7 to bowl on a lane that hadn't been oiled in 6 days. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we key in there. The trends really, we've expanded our snack bar probably twice the size since we've been there 10 years. This is our 11th year. Because we had a traditional owner, and he was more old school, and he did things a certain way, and so we came and brought a different take on that. So, but and then the other bowling center, it's a lot of Moonlight Bowl, or Global. We call it Global on the weekends. A lot of live. Sometimes they do live music, things like that. So that they're a mix of both, and we're not. So yeah, that's where we're at on the trends. It's tough to compete with what we have in town. Because, like I say, they're traditional fun centers. They got $1 million worth of video games and things like that. We don't. So that's that. We just cater to the league bowler, basically, and the tournament bowler.
How often? How many tournaments are y'all doing? Do y'all have like a yearly tournament you have in the bowling center?
Yeah, we do. Well, every year we do a St. Patty's Day tournament where we do 3 shifts. Like noon and 4 and 7, and those are full. So we have 3 full shifts there. We do local tournaments, 600-700 club tournaments. We do Christmas Eve tournaments, New Year's Eve tournaments. October we do a tournament called Bowling for Boobies. We've done that for this is our 10th year on that. Last year we raised about $102,000 or $103,000 on that. So that goes all to 2 local recipients in our area. We give that money straight to them, and raffle items at 50/50s and things like that. So we do a lot of stuff like that. We do fantasy football drafts in the bar. We, being traditional like that, we try to get as much as we can. We get a lot of graduation parties or gender reveals or things like that. So we get a lot of that.
Have you had an actual wedding in your bowling centers?
Not when we had it.
Okay.
I told you 70s. There was a wedding there, I believe, in like 82 or 83. And somebody sent me a picture. I told you because I'm into the nostalgic stuff. Somebody sent me a picture where they walked in and there's a straight shot down lane, like lane 13 and 14, and they stripped those lanes, stripped the whole house, and had chairs up and down the lanes, and they walked down that part of it.
Dude, that is awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you also, before we got on here officially on the live, you were telling me about y'all having the oldest scratch league.
Yeah.
In history or state or national?
It's national in the country. It's 125 years old. Started in 1900, and it was called the Tri-Cities League. It wasn't Quad Cities then. It was Tri-Cities. It was Davenport, Rock Island, Moline.
Yeah.
So what they did was field 2 teams from each city, and they bowled in their respective city. So the teams bowled in Davenport, Moline, and Rock Island, and they put those scores together at the newspaper, and they kept stats from that. And that was the Tri-City League. 1935, they added the word classic, Tri-City Classic League. And of course, it got a lot bigger. And then they had a secretary of that league. His name was Cal Whitmore. I believe he was secretary for 48 years, and I'm probably wrong there, but it may be more. He was in the league, and then when he passed, there's another, they call him a league historian in that league that's got all the records, and then I got involved in that with helping him track the records. But 1900, this is the 125th year. It's the oldest scratch league in the country. There was in Pittsburgh, I think, was a league called the Drug Trade League, is what it was called, and that folded up like 3 or 4 years ago. That was the one that was ahead of this. So yeah, this should be a big deal this year. Hopefully we can get somebody from USBC or somebody to come in town and talk.
How many teams do you average on your scratch league, Mike?
That league is 16, and it's a draft league. It switched now to a draft league. So when the league started, they basically took the top 16 averages that signed up and made them captains. And then they did like a snake draft. 16 to 1, 1 to 16, and then back. So there's a draft pool. Now, last year they had the high average of 242, I think, something like 243, all the way down to the 16th, I think was like 230. And then those are the captains, and then people put their name in. So it's hard to say they have 12 or 14 or 16 teams because you just don't know who signs up every year. So since it started, it's been 14 or 16. It's bounced back and forth. It's 16 this year, and that leaves about 6 or 7 people on the list that didn't get drafted. So in that league, if you basically tier them, you got your 240, you got your 230, you got your 220, and you got your 2-teen guy. That's really what that is. So if your 2-teen guy misses, you can get somebody within 10 pins. So, if it's 250, go up to 225. So, and so on and so forth. So a captain basically can sub for any captain. So it's a pretty competitive league. It's Peterson points, so they're bowling directly against each other, 4-man teams.
You said 4-man?
4-man, yeah. Yeah.
4-man? Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
like I run the scratch league. We do a little 12-week league here in the summer that I'm secretary over. And as long as I have 8 teams, I feel like I've accomplished something.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: is it bowling on house shot?
Oh yeah. Is y'all?
Well, oh yeah. Yeah. Well, they tried it in this league a while back. I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, and started doing patterns. And, again, I'm the bowling guy. I'm going to tell you how I feel. Guys want to go in the book at 240. They don't want to go in the book at 205. You know what I mean? It's all about what, I don't care if you change it for tournaments or you average it out here. They want to see them in the book at 240 or as high as possible. You know what I'm saying? That's just what they do. So for us in our area, I would say 95% of the bowlers want to bowl on house shot. There's always that 5% that want them tough, and they do. I mean, there's guys around here that grind it out. They're driving all over to bowl on tough stuff, and I commend them for that. But I've tried that in the past with tournaments here and there, and I've got added money here and there, and I can't break the 20 number, or 22 number, because it feels like if you don't add a bunch of cash up top, nobody wants to bowl. You know what I'm saying? So nobody wants to bowl based on entries. They want the guarantee, or they're just not going to bowl. And I feel like I'm spinning my wheels doing that, because a lot of work to open up for 18 people,
Oh, absolutely.
Put a staff out and, get staff there earlier, because like I say, on Sundays for me, I'm full from noon until about 8 o'clock, double shift all day long. So it's hard for me. So I would have to start that tournament at 8, and to do that, that's, like I say, it's a lot of work for 18 or 20 bowlers. So I feel like I beat my head against the wall a lot with tournaments. Our best luck for us is having handicap tournaments, little just handicap tournaments, like 600-700 club tournaments. They get tons of teams because, guys want to come out and have some drinks and, get a little handicap and bowl, So that's turning for us. We got a lot of good bowlers in our area, and a lot of them don't travel outside this area to bowl on tough stuff. Some of them do, and like I say, I commend them for that. But some of them just don't want to leave this area.
What is the highest sanction set you've had in both of your houses, Mike?
Oh gosh, I knew you were going to say that. 8. I think it's 889 in Davenport, and I think it's real close. I think it's 889 in Muscatine as well. Guy in Muscatine won singles and all events and nationals the same year. Had back-to-back 800s. First guy to ever do it, I think, from Muscatine. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think he's got high there. We've had a lot of 879s, 869s. A couple of years ago in the Classic League, 869 and 868. It's coming. You know what I mean? It's coming. With today's technology and rev rate, it's coming.
Yeah. Here in Alabama, it's 896, and the guy that did it went 300, 296, 300 down in Birmingham, and it hasn't even been sniffed since. So,
well, state record's 899, but in our houses, those are the two highest. Was 879 about 10 or 12 years ago, and then that just repeatedly got broke. Like I say, it's coming. I mean, it's just a matter of carry. You can whack the pocket all night long and have 640, or you can whack the pocket all night 840.
Mike, you can hit the pocket all night and shoot 620. I'm proof of that. I did that about 2 or 3 weeks ago in our stretch league.
Yeah, and my dad always used to tell me strikes are for show and spares are for dough.
Absolutely. See, and that's another thing about. So here's another thing to talk about. Do y'all have any high schools do y'all have a high school program in Iowa? I'm presuming you do.
Yeah. Well, okay. Being that we're as busy as we are with league bowling, we cannot take high school. So the 48 lane center that's here in town has them all basically. And we have a St. Ambrose College here too as well, and I think they're ranked 2 in the nation, 2 or 3, I think. And so there's a lot of competitive bowling. We used to have Leatherneck, which was a college tournament that had tons of teams every year, and I think they just moved to. I'm not sure where they moved, but yeah, we have a lot of high school bowling. When I was school, bowling was a club, not a sport. So it was just kind of a get together. It was like the chess club, but now you can letter in it. Bowling's the only sport that your kid can start making scholarship money at 5 years old. You know what I mean? So realistically, if you start putting your kids in bowling tournaments, they can make, smart money or college money right off the bat. So, and a lot of that's out there. A lot of scholarships for bowling, but it's tough. It's a tough grind. It's a tough grind to do it for a living.
Absolutely, but no, it's good, and I say that because see, Alabama just started up high school bowling literally like 8 years ago.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, I'm telling you, behind the eight ball on that, which made me
Mm-hmm.
really happy when it did become a
Mm-hmm.
thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we, one of our local schools, they won the state title. I think it was year 2.
Really?
And that was a really cool deal because one of the kids on the team, I actually had started coaching him as a sophomore, and now he's up in Cincinnati, and he's just
Right.
absolutely obliterating everything. And I've had people come on my TikTok live, and they know who he is, and it's like, yeah,
Right.
So that's a pretty cool deal in itself. You coaching somebody, but it also helps when you've had coaches like Bob Learn Jr. and Amaletto Monticelli, at your
Right.
disposal.
Right. Oh
Because
yeah.
he did go to Martin Methodist for a little bit.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, we got a big junior program as well. We have a 9 o'clock shift and a noon shift where we're basically full both shifts. And that's like that in the other centers in town as well. So our area is really big on junior bowling. And for me, I love it because that's our future. That's my future anyway, because if they're not bowlers and the pre and post bowl era is here. And that happened since COVID as well. I actually had to put a rule on my junior bowling that our junior bowlers bowl 25 weeks. You can pre-bowl or post-bowl up to 6 times. That's a quarter of the season. And I took a lot of flack for that because there was some kids, Mike, that bowled on Saturday mornings that never bowl on Saturday mornings. They paid and they came in on Wednesday afternoon and pre-bowled every single week. So I'm glad they're still bowling, but that's tough to pair teams together that way. So and kids are involved in a lot right now. They're in dance class and cheer and bowling and, football and everything. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on. I remember when I was a kid, my mom said, pick one, or pick 2. I got to play baseball and I bowled, and they were opposite seasons. So it worked out good, but we never missed bowling. Never, unless something was broke or somebody died, we just didn't miss bowling. And there's a lot of adult teams now that miss bowling and want to pre-bowl. And it's just a thing that was unheard of when I was younger. It's just, you never seen 2 teams missing out of a league because for any reason, it was just weird.
Well, I want to take this time right now to let everybody know on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok, if anybody has any questions for Mike, fire them here in the comments, and we will get those answers for you because this right here, like I said, Mike, you are actually our first proprietor on Calling All Bowlers.
Oh, really?
So, yes,
Okay.
yeah. So that perspective is just so invaluable to me to have you here telling us about what you're doing.
A lot of people don't get that perspective. You know what I mean? They just think, I always joke and say, you should, I always get, what you should do? You know what you should do? And so, you hear that a lot, and it's tough. It's tough, it's a daily grind. Let's just say that. So there's more behind it than, if you're just missing one team, for example, in a 12-team league, that's a lot of money. Just if a team just decides not to bowl here or there, when you're a league-based bowling alley like that, you need every team there. So a lot of people don't realize that. They realize, it's just one team that quit. What's the big deal? Well, do the math over 8 months. I mean, it's a big deal that one team.
It is. Let me ask you this question. How much have you had to go up on lineage over since post COVID reopening?
Mm-hmm. Well, we
Like
are
percentage wise.
right. Well, not much. I mean, we went up twice since COVID. So in 4 years, we went up twice. We went up a quarter the first time. We went up a quarter the second time. So not much. And our it's hard to say because, what do you get for a game of bowling there? They were getting $3.75 or $4 for a open bowl game here. You go to a certain fun centers around, it's $5-6 a game and $3 or $4 for shoes. That's just absurd to me. But I understand, it's $50 million complex they got to pay for. But, geez, so we don't go up to go up. You know what I'm saying? We've never done that. Where I've worked at a bowling center before, as beer went up one year, bowling went up the next, like clockwork. It just didn't matter if fees went up or not. That was in their nature, basically, where they just raised and raised and raised. Well, there's got to be a benefit to bowling in a league. If you're getting $3 a game for open bowling, that's $9 to come out and bowl 3 games. It's hard to charge lineage of $10. What's the benefit for me signing up for 8 months? I got to get a better deal than what he's getting. So people don't see that aspect of the bowling world. You know what I mean? So, but it's fun. It's fun. Yeah, we didn't go.
Hunter has a question. He wants to know, how much are your weekly leagues? I'm sure they differ, so I guess you kind of just give a range on that, Mike.
Yeah, that classic league, that scratch league is $20. They pay $20, but lineage isn't $20. You know what I'm saying? That they pay into the league. Most fees are $12, $15 in that range, 12 to 15, depending on what it is. That's what the leagues pay. So that scratch league pays an extra money because they want a big prize money. They got a sponsor in that league. I think that adds $1,500 to that league, and they divide that up over the top so many teams. And so, that we range between $10, $12, and $15 is what I would say.
So you said $20 is for the
talking
most
to people
competitive league?
It's pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm. No, I say that because our 2 competitive leagues here at the center I work the shop in, they're $30 a week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know a guy that moved down to Florida from Davenport, and he says he's paying $25 or $27 a week. And he's paying $15 for a pitcher of beer. So, we're not that way in Iowa. You know what I mean? So I can only charge what everybody else is charging, So that's what's unfortunate. I can only charge for what's in our area. So, but we're fairly cheap, for lineage. Our lineage is fairly cheap. What we charge the league bowlers is fairly cheap. And I'm only comparing that to people I've talked to across the country. So I would venture to guess you guys are $3 or $4 higher in lineage than what we are, what you pay the bowling.
Yeah, I think, let's see, right now we're $12.15 lineage.
$12.15?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're $10.50.
Yeah. See, $12.15, and it's like you said, the open play is like different rates of like, $4.99, $5.99, and then the shoes and all this other stuff. Yeah. No, it's like, I know you made a really good point there. Like you have to give people the tangible benefit of being a league bowler,
right,
and not cross that threshold. So no, that's a really good point made. So
that's
if anybody else has got any other questions, put them in here in the comments. Like I said, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, y'all throw them at them. Let's it's always good getting a fresh perspective. And while we're doing that, let's move on to our next topic here. So, how did you get started on TikTok, and what is your main purpose behind the TikTok?
Well, I come home. My wife doesn't bowl. I've been married 26 years. My wife never bowled with my wife. I've never seen my wife bowl. I don't think she's ever bowled. It's not her thing. She works in an office during the day, and I got between second and third shift. I go out to bowling at about 2:00, get home by midnight type of thing. So I come home and tell her the things I see, or this happened or that happened, and she just can't believe it. So I'm an old guy. So I seen the TikTok, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start showing her this stuff. So I uploaded a video of, actually it was my brother. He was bowling bad one night and picked up his bowling ball, and there's a door that closes in the pro shop, and it's locked. And he was just off and threw his bowling ball over, and it bounced, and he made a scene, and everybody looked back and looked over, like, oh, what happened? Well, I pulled the security footage of that and put a little music behind it, and a crying baby or whatever, and then put it on TikTok. But he's never done it since. So that's where it was started. And when I first started, I was the parking lot police because, like I say, you wouldn't believe what happens in the bowling alley. I mean, people meet in the parking lot. People just have lunch in the parking lot. People use our dumpster in the parking lot. I get semis that park there and then strand them there in the parking lot. So I always the parking lot, and people joke with me because I'm the parking lot police. But hey, I mean, it's it's not good for business. You know what I mean?
No, it's completely necessary. Absolutely. I completely
So,
agree. You need to police your parking lot.
people like that as well. But most of it's inside the bowling alley. I wanted to show people. I just put one up the other day about somebody down on lane, we're 24 lane center, and our desk is right behind lanes 17 and 18. But somebody will be down at the other end of the bowling alley whistling and yelling and and making hand signals, and I'm looking at him like, what's going on here? And then, so my brother's in the back, and I always call like, it looks like we have a touchdown on lane 3 and 4. I'm not sure, but but because you know what the traditional ball stuck symbol is,
Yeah, they're doing that. Yeah.
So,
dude,
and a lot of people don't get either is, I got my brother in the back. There's my brother, it's my mechanic. I can't, that's another topic, really. I went to a mechanic school when I bought the bowling alley. My brother and I did. I have always said there should be a front desk school. Somebody should know how to work that front desk because if you just aimlessly calls in the back, like a pin in the gutter on lane 7, but you haven't told the bowlers that you called that back, you're going to break this guy's ankle. You know what I'm saying? So there's a camaraderie that's got to go with that front and back person. Just like calling calls in the back, you can't stack them up. If you got 4 calls, don't call them all in a row. You know what I'm saying? Give the guy a second to run to the other lane. Things like that. People don't see that in the bowling alley. So sometimes my TikToks show stuff like that. So that's how I got started, really, is I wanted to show people what happens in a bowling alley and put my spin on it, whether it be good or bad. I mean, but I know a lot of things people have calmed down. People don't throw as much stuff now because they know. But I put good stuff out too. Somebody picks up a 710 split, I'll put that out, because I got 32 cameras in my bowling alley, so I can see every square inch of it. You know what I'm saying? So, so for that lady to come in and try to grab a bottle of liquor was pretty ballsy.
I mean, it's funny, like how many people, like how gutsy, like you just said, how gutsy it is when. Oh, yeah. If they really just want like a shot of something, like they could ask somebody,
on the ball return and threw his hands in the air, So, and I showed him that this guy was a Hall of Famer guy, and he just a idiot moment, but I showed it to him and I put it out there and he came up to me, and I said, hey, you did it. You're the one that did it. Why are you mad at me? Because I showed everybody. You weren't nervous that night about everybody seeing it because you did it. So I just wanted to make sure everybody saw it.
So the first thing when we were doing the pre-interview and I was asking you like exactly where you were from, and you said Davenport, Iowa, and immediately the first thing I thought of one of my favorite guys in wrestling right now, of Seth Rollins, and I was like, I have got to ask him, has he ever been in your bowling center before? When you told me yes, I was like, no, we got to include this on here. So tell everybody out here about Seth Rollins.
He's younger than me. He's my brother's age, the same age. So I don't know him personally. I know he grew up in Buffalo, which was 15 minutes from the bowling alley. I know he's got a wrestling school downtown Davenport called Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, where he trains wrestlers there. He's got a coffee joint downtown Davenport. He does a lot for the community around here. That's what I know about him. And our Bowl for Boobies, every year he donates action figures that are signed, and his wife donates action figures that are signed. She wrestles, I think. Everybody's going to kill me for not knowing her name.
That's Becky Lynch. I just want everybody to know that's Becky Lynch. I know this. I got your back, Mike.
So, I think he's been out there that day. But like I say, he does a lot for the community. He trains wrestlers right in town. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. No, that's awesome right there, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just again, like I said, the sense of community, that's what it comes down from. And that's just what makes it awesome.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We get a lot of that here. And like, we got a big bowling community here. So, but even outside of that, when people come together for somebody, because everybody knows somebody, you know what I'm saying, with cancer or so that's what we do. And basically, we run a bowling tournament, but everybody else, with the hundreds of volunteers that get the donations and all that. So we do what we're good at, is making sure all 24 lanes run for 3 consecutive shifts. You know what I'm saying? And run the bowling center the best that we can. And then there's people that are just countless hours. I mean, there's we have a guy in town here that's I think he got $40,000 in cans last year, 30-some thousand dollars just in cans, recyclable cans, and donated it all. And he does it on a yearly basis to do that. So, but yeah, we got a cool community and a good bowling community. But maybe after Seth retires, he'll join a league or something. I'm pretty sure he's got a bowling ball though. I think Visiball's got a ball with. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's just WWE.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he does.
Yeah, well, I think you could probably get on the ball to do one for you.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. All right, we're getting to this part of the episode here. You know, this is something I had asked you, hey, is there something you really want to talk about? And you said string pins. Now,
Yeah.
we all know just exactly, like I said, there's been a lot of, it's to put it bluntly, it's been very up and down. Opinions have been
Mm-hmm.
hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a proprietor, I'll ask you, what are your thoughts about string pins, and do you think that is in your future in the bowling business?
I hope it's not in my future. I'm 50. I'm gonna die at that bowling center. So they're coming. In my opinion, they're coming. And why I say they're coming is nobody's lined up to be a bowling alley mechanic. Nobody. So nobody, like when I said earlier, if you got a 24 lane center and you're not working it, if you can't change a 2-to-1 or, you know, fix a broken brake shaft arm, or if you can't do that stuff, you're in trouble. And nobody's, and we're lucky in our bowling center, the guy that poured the concrete for the foundation, his boss was the one building the bowling alley and said, hey, do you want to be a bowling alley mechanic? No. And he said, well, I'm selling the construction business. Yep. He went to Muskegon for, back then it was 10 weeks, I think, or something. He came back. He's been the mechanic ever since, but he's in his mid 70s now. And now I got a brother that's 36 or so. He's been doing it 9 years. So without him, there is no us. You know what I'm saying? Without that mechanic there, people don't realize that they have to run first and foremost. You know, I'm not a guy that says, oh, God, lane 7 down, just move them. I can't move. I'm full every night. You know what I'm saying? So it has to run. So I see the benefits of them. I really do, but I don't know if it's in the future for who can afford it first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? Who could tear off 24 A2s and put in 24 string pins? You know, I don't even know what they cost, but I've done it. We got a fun center that just built here. It's kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese. I think it's called like Malibu Jacks. I think they have 6 in there. They're full lanes, but I don't know if they're USB-C approved strings or they're recreational strings, because I think there's a difference, but I'm not sure from just what I've seen on TikTok and what I've read about. So no, string pins is not in my future. There is an 8-lane center about 20 minutes from us in a small town that I heard was taking out 8230s, AMF 8230s, and those things are old. So that would fit him, because, you know, it's probably tough to keep 30s running. And again, his whole family works that place. You know what I'm saying? So they need less maintenance or less problems. So in an 8-lane center, if they're all 8 ain't running, you're in trouble. So, you know, because every one of those lanes has to run, you know. So I think it's coming. In my opinion, it's coming. And the reason that is lack of mechanics. That's why. So I know there's still maintenance there, but it's a lot less. They call them detangles, I think. What a lot of people don't realize on the string pins is there may be less maintenance, but you're hitting the 1, 2, 3 every shot. In a free fall machine, you have a 1 and at least on A2s, 1 in 21 or 1 in 22 chance to get that same head pin. On string pins, you get the same head pin every single time. So how many times do those things have to be filtered in and out? I mean, every day you got to have a regimented switch and 5 or 6 pins, you know, so there's still some maintenance that goes on there. So I heard EJ Tackett's bowling alley in Indiana got them. I don't know. So, and I know USB-C or PBA's certified a tournament on them. So that makes sense because they want to further the game of bowling. So if that's what it is, so I see it both ways. I mean, when I was a kid, it was a LT-48, a Black Beauty, and then it went to Yellow Dot, and then it went to the Excalibur. That was the first reactive ball that I can remember was the Excalibur, the Turbo X.
It was. Mm-hmm.
From that point on, it went crazy, and people didn't care about that. When it went from wood to synthetic, people didn't care about that. They may have griped or bitched about it for a couple of days, but I mean, if you wanted to bowl, that's what you had to do. So I get a lot of people that say, I will never bowl on string pins. Well, if you love bowling, you'd be surprised what you'd do if that's all you had.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point to make right there, Mike. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What do you want to do? You want to quit, or because a lot of them are a couple pins difference in average, so it's not the same, but it's still the game I love. So it'd be nice if you could go back to pin boys, right? Have a kid back setting up 4 lanes at a time.
And that's the thing I said about it too. And I'm glad you brought up that perspective about the lack thereof mechanics, because the first thing I thought of in this whole new idea and concept, I was like, they're going to take away a potential job from somebody.
Right.
That was my first thought, but I never
right.
put it in a perspective like you just put into
there is no mechanics. I mean, I can find somebody. It's generally a mechanical person. Bowling hours are tough. Saturdays and Sundays are tough. So if a bowling lane's running for us, somebody's going to be there. You know what I mean? It's just I won't have my desk person run to the back. I just won't do that. I don't think that's. We don't have to do that at that point, so we won't do it. So we pride ourselves on our machines, and they have to run. But nobody's waiting in line to make 40 or 50 grand a year at a bowling alley. You know what I'm saying? As the mechanic. I mean, let's just be honest. Nobody is doing that. So I know some people out there will see, 40, 50 grand, that's a lot of money where we're from for a bowling alley mechanic. We're not up to that Bolero, or I don't know what they get paid there on big centers, but I can imagine your head maintenance or mechanic at a big center spends half the day getting straws out of video game quarter slots, and tickets unstuck, and cleaning up Slurpees off the carpet and things like that. You know what I'm saying? That's probably what they spend half their day doing, and not maintaining the machines or maintaining the lane machine. That's a big part of it. We had 160 300s last year in Davenport at our center, and I think 88 800s. So again, people out there will say they're too easy, but if you could pay $10 and average 240 at my place, or you could pay $10 and average 195 at another place, where are you bowling?
Exactly. See, that's the thing about it. It's like we were talking about tournaments earlier, and I've been tournament director. I've put tournaments together for here in Huntsville, and I started out having the handicap tournament was on house, and then I would do the scratch version of the tournament, and I would put out a challenge or a sport shot. And I'm sitting there struggling on the scratch to bring in like 10 people.
Yeah.
And then, I remember like I had to borrow $100 from one of my old secretaries of a league I was president over to make my guarantee. And I paid him back. And I had a bunch of people messaging me going, hey, I don't understand why you don't have at least 30 or 40 into this, because this is a really good idea you got going. So just keep at it.
Right. We had a lot of talkers. I say, a lot of people say, know what you should do? You should run a tournament on Saturdays and 9 in the morning and this and that. And then you do that, and that person's busy, or that person, and I get it, things happen, but it's tough on your end of it because you probably spend a lot of time at the bowling alley, to go out there in your free time to run a tournament to get 16 or 17 people. That's tough.
And the funny thing about it is, too, in an ironic way, is that I was like, I came up with a concept. I was like, okay, you know what we'll do? If we can't bring them in for the tough stuff, I'll give them a carry contest. If that's what they want, they can have a carry contest. And then you probably have seen this a time or 12. But then the next thing I have is Mike, what's going on here? I'm shooting 970 and I'm missing the cut by 50 or 30 or 40 or what have you.
Either way.
So it's like you're in a catch-22. It's like, okay, they're either too high or they're not high enough. So it's like, what do y'all want me to do? So again, it's like you said.
We have a 24-team league on Wednesday nights. It's a decent league. 240s high average all the way down to 100. So it's a handicap league. Beer drinking, great league. Last year I started a bracket The last 7 weeks, I tiered the top 60 bowlers, because 120 bowlers, and the bottom 60. So it went from 240 to, I think, 218, and then it went from 217 down to that. And I did 90% of 240 because that was high average. And boy, you should have heard the scratch bowlers just screaming and yelling. That handicap was too high. But what do I have to give a 170 average bowler to compete with a 240 average bowler? 20 pins ain't gonna do it. You know what I mean? 30 pins ain't gonna do it. And people say it's easier for that guy to shoot 220 than it is a 240 guy. A 240 guy is striking 8 times a game. So it's a lot easier for that 240 guy to shoot 279, 299, 300 than it is a 170 guy to average or to shoot 230. You know what I'm saying? So that was another debate we always had, was where is that handicap? So I think that's where it's at. I'm going to try that this year, is run some handicap, maybe blind draw doubles, things like that, because that's where it's at. The scratch, the seniors travel well in our area, and women travel well in our area. But the scratch bowlers, it's tough. It's tough to draw them in. Like I said, without a big guarantee, it's tough to draw a lot of bowlers in.
And you see, that's the funny thing. You're having a hard time bringing in because people prefer the guarantee. Here, with the tournaments I ran, they're asking you what your payout ratio is.
Right.
They want to know what you're doing. I'm like, I do 1 in 4. Right. So it's like, so it's like, again, I think every place geographically in the country has that different dichotomy. Like you just said, the scratch bowlers want the guarantee, and then here they want to know how many places you're going to pay out.
Yeah, I follow Larry Lichstein. Not sure if you know who that is. He's in Lightning Strike Lanes in Florida. He sold my dad his first drill press in like 1978. Used to drill for the PBA. And he's getting on Sundays 80 doubles teams because he live streams it and he broadcasts it. Lightning Strike Lanes, I think, is what it is. And he's getting 60, 80 doubles teams in his handicap. So I think he's on to something, and I'm going to try it this year. I'm going to try to run some handicap stuff because there's more of them than there are scratch bowlers. And in that 120 person league, that's more handicap than scratch. So, ultimately you got to cater to the 100 people versus the 20, so I think that's where it's at. The scratch is tough, and a lot of that's what it is here is carry contest. But like I say, there's a few guys in town that really grind it out, that have full-time jobs, but still go out and grind it out. I respect those guys 100% for doing that because it's a grind. I mean, it is a grind. There's not how'd you like to be the worst golfer in the world on tour and make more money than a bowler makes his whole life, in 1 year? So it's a grind, man. It is a grind. You have to love it to drive 2, 3, 4 hours every weekend and possibly stay in a hotel and come back and go to work, 40, 50 hours a week again the next week. It's a grind. I commend anybody that does it, but it's a tough grind.
We got a question here on TikTok for you, Mike. Hunter wants to know: do you run side pots, brackets, break the bank, strike jackpot, etc. in any of your leagues? Or is that like a house thing collectively for the strike pot?
We have a strike pot. Every league does their own blind draw doubles. What the bowling center runs is a strike pot. It's $1 to pay to get in. And we adjusted it. Right now it's 18 strikes. Remember the scores I told you we had earlier with 170 300s and 100 800s. So we have scores. You have to, right now it's just eclipsed $7,000. It's $1 and you have to strike, and I may get them wrong here, but it's the 1st, 5th, 6th, 9th, and then the second game it's the 2nd, 6th, 8th, I think 11th, and then the last game it's a lotto. And you got to throw the last 5 basically, 8, 9, 10 basically. So the hardest ones are the first one and the last one. The guy that shot 869 didn't get it. He missed the first. And he missed the last.
You're gonna have somebody. You're gonna have somebody not being able to carry one night that shoots like 620. It's gonna bust that or something.
We do that at the desk. We do a 10% rule. I keep 10% to start the next pot. The bowling alley makes nothing on it. They call it a game of chance, I believe, or a game of skill. So since we don't make any money on it, we I think there was 14 strikes originally, and it got hit 8 or 10 times a year, and that's no fun. You know what I'm saying? I like to build it up. So it got close down to the last couple. There was a guy last year, I got down the last strike and didn't even know. He thought he was out, but he wasn't. So that was probably the best option because, he wasn't so nervous. But yeah, we have a strike pot. There's one in Muscatine they call Break the Bank, but it's got less strikes. They like to see it get hit more. I like that Powerball roll over, roll over, roll over, get it up to $1 billion, baby. So
Yeah.
so people talk about it. It's just something. When I was a kid, they did a strike pot, but it was like 1, 5, and 9, and 2, 4, and 6. It was like 6 strikes. You know what I mean? But in today's age, we brought back last year pizza frame. When I was a kid, if everybody struck in the 5th frame or the first game, the bowling alley gave you pizza. We do that now. It's the first team to do it, and instead of a pizza, we give them a drink. So that doesn't happen more than it happens. So you'd be surprised. So there's stipulations. It'd be at least 4-man teams, and there's got to be 4 people there. You can't have 2 people missing and only 2 people bowling. That don't count. So, but there's people that want to work their way around that. So something you give out free, people want to work their way around. But we do that and do that strike pot. That strike pot's been pretty popular. I mean, there's people that average 150 get in the strike pot every single week. That's 18 strikes. So
it's like you said, the scores are as high as they are. Requiring them to strike in 50% of the night. That's it. That's fair.
People say that plus too many strikes. When it gets hit, you got to change it. I said, you're averaging 240. I mean, so by average, you're throwing 24 strikes tonight. All you need is 18 of them, the right spots. And generally it's the first or it's the last. So it's like anything else, Mike. For 10 minutes of practice, you fire 9 strikes, and then first frame you get up and you wrap a 10. So you're out of the strike pot.
Right there in the beginning, like the rest of the night. All right, we're done with this.
Yeah.
So Hunter says he wanted to say here. He says that's awesome, and that if he ever ventures out to Iowa, he will go there to support it.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, there's stipulations on ours. You can't just walk in and win it. You got to be a league bowler. So we get people that want to come over and sub and try to win the money. I don't like that. That's not fair to my guys. That's not fair to the people that are true league bowlers for us. So you got to be in a league. So if you bowl on Mondays, you can get in any other night of the week that you sub because you bowl in a regular league there. So that's how the rule.
He's talking about your open bowl. He's gonna come support you.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that would be great. That would be 100% great.
All right. We're getting down to the winching hour, and everybody that watches my live knows what that means. So my last question to you, Mike, is what advice would you give someone coming up through the ranks that wants to own their own bowling center in today's world?
Well, if you're building a center from scratch, it's got to be string pins. After we just had that discussion, you have to build a string pin center now. If you're building from scratch, that's a lot of money. So if you're buying something, and again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. If it's 24 lanes or less, you and your wife better nestle in because you're going to work it. You know what I'm saying? Or you better have some pretty damn good help or people you trust to help that. Because if it's got a bar and it's got food and it's got machines and it's got grass and maintenance, I mean, there's 2 or 3 sections I just covered there that you're going to need some people to help. I've seen guys, me growing up, guys that had centers in town that were never there. They would come strolling through once a month or every other Wednesday and buy somebody a beer here and there. Well, that guy didn't last long, because he had no idea what was going on in his own bowling center. He couldn't even open the cash register. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference for me there. Versus somebody, because I would say if you're going to buy a bowling center, you're buying a full-time job. That's what you're buying. So, and I love it. I mean, it's my passion. When I grew up behind the desk. My mom worked in a bowling alley. Met my dad there. I had the pro shop. That whole thing. So I grew up behind the desk in a bowling alley. I emptied ashtrays into a 5-gallon bucket with sand, and I pulled weeds, and so I grew up. It's a passion for me and our family, basically. So that's the best advice I have is you're buying yourself a full-time job And if that is not going to work for you, then don't buy a bowling center, because it's a tough grind. I mean, it's tough.
Well, Mike, do you want to let everybody know about any social media outlets that they can find you on or your bowling centers at?
Yeah. We don't have websites. Davenport, Iowa, Leisure Lanes is on Facebook. In Muscatine, Iowa, it's Rose Bowl. Those are the Facebooks. I have a TikTok, Bowling Guy 1 is the name of it. You can follow me inside my bowling alley. I show the good and the bad inside the bowling center. I'll show a guy picking up the 710, and I'll show a guy smuggling a bottle of vodka in and making his own drinks. I'll show it all to you. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, it's Bowling Guy 1. Or check out our Facebook page on both bowling centers. You can kind of see what's going on. We put good scores on there. Anytime somebody shoots 300, 800, which is a lot. So we put that on there, and we just kind of advertise what we're going, what we got going. And I'm on a lot of Facebook groups. I like to learn. I like to learn what other people, I have questions. I ask you questions all the time during your live, so I'm always trying to get different perspectives of what people do in their center. Like, do you use walkie-talkies to call it back, or do you use an old school microphone? Things like that. I like to learn different things like that. So, but yeah,
That's what they're doing in my center.
I won, and I'll show you what happens inside our bowling center.
Man, dude, no, for real. You guys go check Mike out in Iowa with his 2 bowling centers. And Mike, once again, I appreciate you coming on to the show and telling us a little bit about yourself and your story. And dude, like I said, your perspective on things, it's refreshing. I love the traditional aspect of it. And I like the fact that you keep that you keep that looking down the line, because again, if you are a proprietor, you have to be on the proactive side instead of coming up from behind on the reactive side, because it's like you said earlier, you get behind a couple of steps and that might be the end of a small business, and nobody and there's never a good time when a bowling center is forced to close for whatever reason.
Yeah, well,
so
the machines that are in the machines that are in landfills everywhere is just sickening. I mean, some of these machines in the closed bowling centers, people aren't even going to get. They just destroy them, and it's sad. So we're trying to keep it alive.
Well, you guys are doing the right things in my eyes based on everything you said, Mike, and you keep doing what you're doing, and we keep on doing these lives, keep in touch. And I am going to tell you, with the amount of honor scores that you're talking about, might want to get you to send me your lane graph so I can show it to some people, because that is absolutely insane. I'm not saying that in a bad way either. That's absolutely insane.
No, yeah,
it is freaking incredible.
And the bad, but like I say, it gets people talking, and people are excited to bowl there. Because we're taking the 190 guy and making.
Send me that lane graph. I want to know what that pattern is. Absolutely. So,
okay.
Well, all right, Mike. Appreciate you coming on the show, everybody. TikTok, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. We're gonna lay it down for you like this. Follow me, subscribe to me on TikTok, like and follow on Facebook, and if you have not done so already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And like I said, guys, appreciate everybody coming on here. Mike, thank you for coming on here and talking to us. It's been a blast.
Yeah,
and like I said, hopefully down the line, I'm going to circle back with everybody that's been on the show, and we can play catch up, man. And appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you, man. I had a good time.
All right. All right. You guys have a wonderful evening. Mike, you take care, and we will catch y'all on the flip side.